Man, is the hater enjoying Brazil or what? You know what I'm saying? Hater at the mall, once again, walking around, making some noise. I had the opportunity to watch SmackDown. I wish that I hadn't. I watched it while getting a coffee by myself. It was a complete waste of time. I should have instead gone to the bathroom or done something productive with my life because this episode was garbage, all right? But as usual, whether we're in Rio, whether we're in Sao Paulo, whether we're in America, Brazil, France, Djibouti, it doesn't matter. We're gonna do it like we do it, which means we're gonna do it segment by segment. You dig? All right, so the show starts out, and we start out with Tessitore and Wade doing their opening thing, where it's like they're kind of like not in the crowd, but they're like ringside, but not by the table. You know what I mean? Because that's how they roll, I guess. They're excited to be in Dublin, it turns out. Becky Lynch comes out to a massive pop. Makes sense, she's from Dublin. And basically, she talks about how Randy Orton one day made eye contact with her in the same arena when she was there as a fan. And as a result, this really made her feel some type of way. And I hate her bets that Randy Orton did more than make eye contact with her. Maybe after the show, he gave her a viper or two, you know what I'm saying? So that went down. And then Becky says the fans don't deserve the show because the fans start chanting, "We deserve it," which is like, we've done nothing to deserve this. The only reason they're in Dublin is because they can't make money in the United States. This is evident, right? The reason that prices have gone up is just simple supply and demand. You know, if you go to Paris and Dublin and Italy and everywhere else in the world, then what happens is you're in America far fewer times. So now you can charge more money because the 10 people that want to go have fewer opportunities to go. So Dublin did absolutely nothing to deserve this. This is just, to be fair, good business from Triple H. You know what I mean? So that's how that went down. I mean, it is what it is. But, the hater doesn't make the rules here. This is just how the cookie crumbles, Becky then starts talking shit about a lot of Irish people, right? She's saying it's weird, and I kind of agree, it's weird that, pictures of her are not, adorning the airports and things like that, right? She's like, I see pictures of these irrelevant rugby players, right? Which was a good point, because a lot of times you see pictures of athletes that nobody really knows, And then she says you see pictures of Katie Taylor, who is a female boxer. Some people consider her to be the greatest female boxer of all time. She's Irish, right? And Becky Lynch says, what the hell's up with that, right? This was a good promo by Becky. She also says that, speaking of promos, she makes the point that, Katie Taylor is a good boxer, but can she cut a promo? Which actually is far more important. And this is why nobody knows who the hell Katie Taylor is, but people actually do know Becky Lynch. After this, Tiffany Stratton comes out, and her entire thing is, yo, I'm Tiffany Stratton, I'm the SmackDown champion, and you're not from SmackDown, so what are you doing here, right? The answer to Tiffany Stratton's question is very obvious. The brand split means nothing. People come and go as they please. They switch shows as they please, right? It's not even a trade. It's not for example, they traded LA Knight for Sami Zayn. That's not what happened. Basically, they're just Sami Zayn is now on SmackDown, LA Knight is now on Raw, inexplicably. They just switch shows. Right, because they show up wherever the fuck they want, So, that's why they should never have another WWE draft ever again. It's a complete waste of time. But basically, as this happens, Nia Jax comes out and says Dublin sucks and starts putting a beating on Tiffany Stratton, right? Becky Lynch joins in. Jade Cargill makes the save. I guess Jade Cargill is now entering one of those storylines. You know what I mean? The storylines where it's I respect you to the champion. It's one of those situations. And that's what's happening here. And then all of a sudden, Aldis comes out, and Aldis says, well, I just got off the phone with Adam Pearce, which is stupid, and he said that it's okay for Becky to, participate in tonight's main event, which is going to be a tag team match, players. And then Tessitore says, wow, who saw that coming? Literally everyone. 100% of the viewers saw this coming. You know what I mean? But whatever. It is what it is. It was an acceptable opening segment, you know what I mean? I don't like the fact that the women are too in my opinion, overexposed in the WWE. But, these are, unfortunately, the biggest stars that we're going to see in this horrible episode. So, given that, we got to give some props to the situation. Then we move on to the next segment, right? The next segment is Fraxium, which are now basically one of those jobber tag teams, that hang out, that loiter backstage. They're just there like doing nothing, you know what I mean? Like, they're like Ludwig Kaiser before he became El Grande Americano. They're just like in the back hanging out, like making muffins or something, I don't know. They're there, and Carmelo Hayes walks by. They give him some props and say that Miz stole his thunder. Miz then appears out of nowhere, and Melo says Miz is smarter than everyone. You know, this is just like not even an advancement of the storyline, but it's basically the same thing that's been happening for several weeks now between Miz and Melo. You know, and then Miz and Melo come out, and it's time for their match with Motor City Machine Guns. The match is not entertaining, if I'm being honest, because of the way it ends. Basically, what happens is Melo hits the first 48, which Testator calls a lung blower, which is an entirely different move. But whatever, that's forgivable. And Miz tags him in. The crowd goes nuts. Now Carmelo doesn't let Miz come in to steal the pin, and the crowd boos because Carmelo sucks and the Miz is a legend, right? It's as simple as that. Then Alex Shelley takes out Carmelo Hayes, and just leaves his partner exposed. Miz doesn't even have to hit a finishing move. The first 48, which is a regular ass signature move, after like 1 minute of, like Chris Sabin laying down there, it's still enough for Miz to just go and pin Chris Sabin. This really makes the Motor City Machine Guns look like shit. It's not just the fact that he got pinned 1 minute after, like a signature move was done to him. It's also the fact that Alex Shelley is the one who like saw this happening, and then he decided to take out Carmelo Hayes, while the Miz is the legal man. Maybe the story was like, oh, they didn't realize that the Miz was a legal man because of the blind tag, kind of, but I don't see how he wouldn't realize that. So if that's the case, why would Alex Shelley take out the other guy and let his partner get pinned? And keep in mind, I will say one thing. I understand that things change, but Chris Sabin, one time, kicked out of the 3D. You know what I mean? But he cannot kick out of the first 48. So this is just like unbelievable. It's incredibly stupid. It's almost disrespectful to Team 3D, aka the Dudley Boys. But I know that's a stretch. We're not gonna like take it that far, But these are things that you should think about before you book a match. You should think about, what the consequences might be. Anyways, I didn't like the match at all. After this, Sami Zayn and Jimmy Uso are talking. Solo tells Jimmy that the baby is welcome to the family tree, that is, cucks. At one point, Solo, I remember this in NXT, was presented as a tough guy, which is now basically laughable. Solo has absolutely no aura, as the kids say. This guy's not believable as anything. Like, he's believable as a jobber only. You know what I mean? Like, the fact that Sikoa was out there, like, winning matches in NXT is just silly at this point. You know what I mean? It's silly. It's like nobody would believe this now. He's just this goof that walks around laughing like a dipshit, Nothing fun about this at all. Next up, Piper Niven is out without music to lose to Charlotte Flair. However, Cucks, Chelsea Green rakes Charlotte Flair's face while Charlotte's doing the figure eight, and Piper hits a Michinoku driver, a pretty good one, might I add, for the win, right? This was okay because it was surprising, but it doesn't advance anything, right? Like, it's like the same thing as last week. Like, we get it. Alexa and Charlotte, Alexa wasn't there, by the way. Alexa and Charlotte are now in a feud with, like, the Secret Hervis and Chelsea Green, which, okay, like, worse things could happen, but at the same time, it's not like, anything else happened. It's just like a reminder that this is a feud, This feud is still happening. That's pretty much all this match told, After this, Michin, by the way, what the fuck? How did Mia Yim, like, 2 years ago or whatever, become Michin all of a sudden? Like, what the hell is that all about? Anyways, Michin comes out. She's all greased up for some reason. She approaches Julia and says, I want a match. Kiana James says she'll have to go through her first. So Michin says, cool, I'll do that. So I guess we're going to see Michin versus Kiana James next week, maybe? I don't know. I don't like Michin. She also says the word bet, and she says it incorrectly. It really angers me how the word bet, which is like a DC slang, has entered the vernacular incorrectly, right? A lot of dumbasses around the world, especially people like Mia Yim, who think they're black, they use it incorrectly, Like, people say, like, all right, bet. Like, there's actually a meaning to it. But that's neither here nor there. We're not going to get to that right now, cucks. Anyways, after this, it's time for, like, what one might say is the main segment of the night, right? The shell of John Cena comes out, and then Logan Paul comes out right after him, before Cena can say anything. Logan tells the truth about Cena, basically. He says Cena is a lapdog and a cuck for going to the Oscars and presenting the award or whatever naked, He says that he, meaning Logan Paul, is not going to sign a cohabitation agreement because this is his house, which I thought was a pretty good line. That number one mocks Cena's stupidity for having things like cohabitation agreements with his own fiance, and also, you know, he tied it together well with this is my house. These are the things that we have to look forward to now, cucks. Cena then says Logan is a disappointment. Cena also cuts a good promo, I will admit. He says that the WWE Universe accepted Logan with open arms, which is obviously a bold-faced lie. But this is the lying Cena. This is the shell of Cena, right? The shell of Cena just says things that get pops, right? He doesn't really say the truth. So he says that's bullshit, obviously. And then Cena says that Logan Paul uses the WWE for branding, right? Which is obviously correct, but it's not unique to Logan Paul. Like, why doesn't Cena do the same thing about Slim Jim? Why doesn't he pull out a table and say, why the hell is there a Slim Jim logo on the table? That's fucking weird, right? He just accepts that one and selectively goes after Logan Paul for doing the same exact thing, except the difference is Logan Paul's out there wrestling, and the CEO of Slim Jim, or whoever, the founder of Slim Jim, he's never taken a bump in his life, cucks. Anyways, whatever, right? Cena says Logan has had only 23 matches, while Cena has had 23 years. You know, fair enough. Good point, right? He also says that Logan Paul is hawking his salt water in order to buy more Pokemon cards, which I thought was a pretty good dig. Anyways, after Cena says, I've had 22 years, Jack, you know, we effectively now have to pretend that Cena's heel turn never happened, right? Like, this is the worst part of this. You know, every time this shell of Cena comes out, I am unfortunately reminded, I don't have a choice, right? I am immediately reminded of what John Cena is. He is a loser at this point because Cena turned heel for no reason. It's exactly like Logan Paul said. You did exactly what you were told to do. You didn't think this through at all, right? You know, I understand the onus falls mostly on The Rock and Triple H and those two other idiots from WWE Unreal, like, you know, Bruce Pritchard and like the other guy. I forget his other guy's name. Who gives a shit, right? But it also falls on Cena. He should have been like, this is stupid. You know, just like the hater said, this is stupid. And Cena is not like Tozawa, right? Cena has some pull. Cena can say, no, I'm not doing this. You know, I understand he's put in a position, but he is intelligent enough and he has enough pull to tell Triple H, hey man, you know, out of the many dumbass ideas you've had in the last 2 years, this is amongst the dumbest. You know, like there's a reason why Vince didn't do it, because he foresaw that it would go this way. And now the character of Cena, at least for this last stretch, is ruined. Obviously, in hindsight, no one's going to remember heel Cena. We're going to remember this Cena, but after the face turn, it's like you pretty much ruined the end of Cena's career. I just want it to be over at this point. I couldn't give a shit what he does. You know? So this is what we have to work with now, right? We have to have Cena out there, and we have to pretend that Cena is someone that, like, you know, is telling us truths or is telling us things that are interesting. And more importantly, we have to pretend that the heel turn didn't happen. Because Cena talks in these like umbrella statements, in these common Cena platitudes of, we don't do it for ourselves, we do it for the fans, Jack. You know what I mean? Or he'll say things, this is not our house, it's theirs, it's their house. And the dumbass fans will cheer. Even though Cena like 3 weeks ago was saying how the fans are like douchebags, you know? So, I mean, it is what it is. Like, I understand what's happening, but I can't help but hate it even more. You know what I mean? After this, Cena says that Logan Paul is taking a spot, right, from more deserving people like Dominic Mysterio, AJ Styles, and Seth Rollins, right? Well, aside from AJ Styles, you know, who is one of my favorites personally, aside from AJ Styles, Logan Paul's better than everyone else that Cena mentioned, and he deserves it more, quite frankly, right? Like, Cena versus Seth Rollins is not as compelling as Cena versus Logan Paul, you know? And furthermore, Cena is the one that gave him the match. Logan Paul came out, he's like, I want to have a match with you. And Cena's like, you want to have a match with me, Jack? I'll see you at Clash of Paris. You know, or first he was like, let's do it tonight. And then Logan Paul's like, no, we're going to do it at Clash of Paris. Cena's like, all right, Jack, see you there, you know? So, like, Cena agreed to it. Like, it's not like Logan Paul inserted himself. You know what I mean? And Cena understands this, and he course corrects a little bit. He's like, yeah, you know, like, you asked for a match and you got one. It's like, yeah, you're the one who gave him the match, asshole. You can't then, like, hold that against him and be like, why'd you ask for a match? Why'd you give me a match? You know? Anyways, that goes down. They kind of, like, brawl for 1 second because Logan Paul gets a little froggy. Cena hits the AA on his bitch ass, and that's that, right? Backstage, Drew McIntyre tells Logan to make it right tonight, just like he did with Cookie Rhodes. Logan says to Drew McIntyre, he says, yes, sir. What the hell? Yes, sir, to Drew McIntyre? Drew McIntyre is an abject jobber. You know what I mean? Like, Logan Paul's career in the last 3 years is like 10 times better than Drew McIntyre's. It should be the other way around. Like, in kayfabe, Logan Paul should look down on Drew McIntyre. as he did in the past when he was out there beating the hell out of Randy Orton and Cucky Owens, and Drew McIntyre couldn't even get a match. He's out there like wrestling Sheamus for the 15,000th time, you know, and Gunther in a bullshit match. Oh, 5 stars, go fuck yourselves. Anyways, that goes down. Street Profits are already in the ring like jabronis, and then it's going to be JC Mateo and Tonga Loa to wrestle them. So you know they're going to lose, right? This is the jobber tag team of the MFDs. If it was like Tala Tonga and fucking Solo, then they would win. But it's not, right? It's the fat one and the regular one. So they're out there wrestling. Sami Zayn and Jimmy Uso come and interfere. Like on the outside, on ringside. This leads to a sky high by Dawkins and a frog splash, a really good frog splash by Tez for the 1-2-3. But it's a completely meaningless match. It's a completely meaningless victory. Nobody cares that Montez Ford pinned like JC Mateo, I'm assuming. I don't even remember who it was that he pinned. Who gives a shit? You know what I mean? After this, it's time for like the last, like, you know, 20% of the show. And basically what happens is Aleister Black comes out to wrestle R-Truth. R-Truth appears via Titantron and says that he went to Dublin, Georgia instead because he's retarded, right? So R-Truth, he cut off his hair and now he's back to being retarded. This is just what we have to accept. I don't care. I don't give a shit about R-Truth. I hope he gets released again because I think at the end of his life, he would appreciate it more if he got released now and left with, I mean, actually I'm not sure because I was going to say if he leaves with some dignity, but I don't think R-Truth has any dignity left. R-Truth is just a giant idiot at this point. You know what I mean? His role is here. We'll pay you some money. We're gonna just humiliate you every week and make you look like you're retarded. You know, I actually like went on Google like a few weeks ago, and I wrote something. I was like, you know, is R-Truth, like I was gonna write like, is R-Truth coming back or something, right? And then like I wrote, is R-Truth, and the, you know, Google fills in the search for you. They're like, is R-Truth really stupid? Like, people actually believe that he is, and why wouldn't they? You know what I mean? Anyways, that went down. But now it's time for Aleister Black to come out, as he did. R-Truth isn't there, obviously, he went to Dublin, Georgia. So Damon Priest will take his place instead. A match starts, but it ain't a match. This is one of those, like, the match gets out of control situations, and, you know, they're probably going to wrestle at Clash and Douchebag, you know what I mean? You know, so that's how that's going to go down. So, you know, we'll see what this leads to, but it's one of those brawls, basically, right? Then after this, same segment, Drew McIntyre comes out and says a bunch of shit, right? He says Cody's a little bitch. The fans go crazy. The fans hate Cody, right? And he says he's one of the few people to pin Cody Rhodes in WWE. Yeah, if you count, you know, in an advantageous way, because I remember days where Cody Rhodes was getting pinned by Tensai and fucking, you know, not Luchasaurus, what's the other one? What was the other one? The Funkasaurus, Brodus Clay. You know, I remember Funkasaurus, Brodus Clay pinning Cody Rhodes. So I don't want to hear that only Drew McIntyre pinned him. Shut up. When they were there and they're supposed to be in their primes, they were getting pinned by Luchasaurus. Like fucking, you know, the Funkasaurus and Tensai and other jobbers. You know what I mean? These are like two of the biggest jobbers of all time. Their only advantages are they're back now and people are even worse than they used to be. That's it, cucks. Anyways, after this, Orton comes out of nowhere, RKO's him, that's it. So this leads me to believe that Cody Rhodes is gone for a while. So instead of having Drew versus Cody, we're going to have Drew versus Randy Orton. Drew's going to win that match probably to continue his pursuit of Cody Rhodes. After this, it's time for the main event, which is nothing interesting. Becky Lynch basically abandons Nia, and Jade Frog splashes Nia for the win. But the show ain't over, cucks. It's almost over, but it ain't over. We go to a backstage segment of Cena just walking around, right? Nick Aldis comes and says, Cena or John, like, I've heard from Brock Lesnar. You know what I mean? And like, you know, obviously, like, we know we're not going to hear what the next words are, but in kayfabe, it's stupid because, you know, he could just tell John Cena like 20 minutes after, you know? Anyways, Logan Paul appears and just cold cocks Cena right in the face, dropping him like a deuce. You know, he says, I'll see you in Paris, Cena. That's going to be like the main event of Clash in Paris, you know? It's not going to be the Roman Reigns match versus the owner of the Shula Fala. You know, everyone sucks. This was not a good episode. I hated everything about it, basically. Like, even on days where they show like Cena and fucking, you know, Logan Paul, like, they're not wrestling, you know? Some Brazilian Karen just told me to like quiet down, but I ignored her ass swiftly, you know what I'm saying? But anyways, the review is over because the show is over. So that being said, take care of yourselves, cucks, and go fuck your own mothers.